Right, Simon. So, Old Born Lady wasn't your last, but you moved to the fellas. You went to Tommy Bow next.
Yeah, I think it was the Christmas of 2021. Um, what do I buy Christine, my wife, for Christmas? Well, I thought it'd be something I could get some pleasure out of too. We're a little bit over lingerie and all that sort of stuff now, but and we've done all that sort of stuff. So what can we get? So nothing better than a horse, is it really? So I have a word with Chef. What have we got here that's a bit nice then? Because business ain't been going too badly. And he offered me a choice of a couple of horses, one of which was Tommy Bow, who Seamus owned himself. He'd bought as a store, shown a bit of good form. So after a bit of negotiating, I duly bought Tommy Bow a few days after Christmas, actually. And we were going out to lunch with a couple of friends. This was where we had a sort of a brief respite from lockdown, I seem to remember, between Christmas and New Year 2021. And I had to pick my wife up. I said, on the way to Salisbury, where we were meeting a couple of friends, I just got something to show you. If you go into the yard, and Christine was rather impressed to see that Seamus had dressed up this horse with purple and pink tinsel. Our racing colours are purple and pink. So we go in the yard, see this horse duly stood there, all covered in purple and pink. And I said, we bought that. Oh, she said. I said, well, it's good, isn't it? Yes. She's probably not quite as keen on the racing as me, but getting there. So long and short, we bought Tommy Bow. And this is where I did land on my feet. Tommy Bow won 6 races for us in the space of the first season, including 3 3-mile handicap hurdles in the space of 10 days. I did write to the Racing Post, did anybody else ever done that? They haven't found that. They never came back with an answer. We won at Plumpton, Hexham and Fakenham in 10 days, clocking out 1,300 miles and probably 1,300 points. I remember most of the races reasonably well. But yeah, we've done really well with Tommy Bow. Seamus has excelled himself and won his first race at Plumpton over hurdles, won his first chase at Plumpton, both of which with my good friend Kevin Jones on board. So we had some good times with Tommy Bow. We've had a few other little hiccups. I've decided I've got a liking. I've always liked watching sellers. I've bought 2 horses of winning seller horses. And eventually I've got to listen. That's why people put them in sellers. I've got to remember that. But it's still a bit of an ambition of mine to win a seller and clear up. Good friend of mine, Robert Tizard, bought a horse called Sou'wester out of a seller many years ago. And that went on to be some sort of superstar. But he's obviously luckier than I am.
Can we just veer off a bit because you've been able to afford to be involved in racing? Oh yeah, we talked about the getting the Canadian up and that, but you're a self-made businessman. So let's not beat around the bush. Tell us a little bit about your business interests and how you got to where you are.
I've always wanted to be in business on my own. I left school. Well, in fact, I left school. I was suspended from school. I thought, sod them, I'm not going back. So it was my decision. And I got a job in an accounts office. I wasn't too bad with the figures, but it was boring, really boring. So after a while, I got a job where I was involved with doing the accounts and selling cars. That wasn't too bad. And then in 1988, when whatever was I then, 27, I saw a job with a Peugeot main dealer in Gillingham. They wanted an experienced car salesman, well experienced in selling new vehicles. Well, I'd never sold a new vehicle in my life. But at the time, in Yeovil, a big dealership called Abbey Hill had just gone pop in a big way and vanished overnight. So I forged a reference from them and went along and got a job with Bakers of Gillingham, which is, as I said, 50 yards that way, 35 years ago. Went in with the full knowledge of how well I'd done selling new Fiats. Well, they swallowed the lot, thankfully. Nick Baker is a good friend of mine still and a 69 Club member, so he doesn't mind me telling him this, because I ended up not too bad at it. So that was okay. That got me on the road in car sales. Before that, however, I had my own ice cream van business. I had 3 ice cream vans parked outside a little terraced house with leads going for the letterbox. All sorts of grief with neighbours. They hated me. Don't blame them. I had a taxi business with 6 cars in Yeovil. That was so unsuccessful, I spent 6 months living in the taxi office. But somewhere or other, the cars and the vans haven't gone too bad. I've been on my own since 2007, and we've developed quite a successful van business, trading as we do vans.
And anyone that's noticed the logo behind you, and anyone that's ever been a bit of a fan of American punk rock or skateboarding, would be thinking, oh, I've seen that somewhere before, something very similar.
Well, unbeknown to me, there is another van operator. Well, unbeknown to me at the time, of course. I am not the man who wears trendy t-shirts and trainers, so it's a world unknown to me. But we did call ourselves We Do Vans and came up with quite a snazzy little logo. And a few years later, we had this huge dossier of paperwork arrive in the office from some American copyright lawyer saying we nicked their logo. I was shocked. I had no idea. And after an awful lot of paperwork came through, I had to agree to remove the flying V from the vans. I can show you an exhibit. This was a line, the V was extended. It was apparently they had worldwide copyright on, and I was trading off their advertising or something. Well, I sell vans, they sell dodgy t-shirts. I couldn't see the problem. But anyway, the press picked it up after a few calls from me. We managed to get the front page of the Daily Press, Fox FM, Mail on Sunday, The Sun, all sorts of publicity. And I had to vow to remove the flying V. This, in fact, is one of the last exhibits. So I shall ceremoniously, just in case we do vans or vans are washing, I shall ceremonially smash it. So I'm sorry for keeping one. So we've done that. That was gone, but it was good publicity at the time. And I even had little old ladies coming in saying, sorry to see you've been threatened. Can we help you out in any way? So I've got to say, it might have cost us £1,000 and a few broken mugs, but it was the best advertising we've ever had. So thank you, Mr. Vans.
I'd have had that one. Right then, let's get back onto the racing. So we talked earlier when we started about the 69 Club. Syndication. I mean, a lot of people seriously have said that it's the way forward. A lot of clubs are starting their micro clubs. What's your opinion on it?
I think it's definitely the way to go ahead, but I think there is, where it needs to prosper is somewhere in the middle level where we are. There's an awful lot of clubs that pay £49, own a share in a horse. Well, you find you've got 1/10,000th of a horse. You might get a glossy picture, and you might get a newsletter, and you might be in a raffle of about 50,000 people to get a trip to the races. Now that's fine, and it does give people an interest. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got syndicates looking for someone to dish out £10,000 or £20,000 for 1/10 of a share in a horse. Well, there's only a certain number of people can do that, and people like me who might be able to do that really want their own thing. So I wanted to do something in the middle where we've got people paying £800 a year at the £69 a go. They're guaranteed a day at the races. They're guaranteed some nice facility at the races, because if you speak to the courses nicely, they will look after you. They will look after you very well at a reasonable rate. We've had great experiences in that respect lately. Fakenham, Newton Abbot, Newbury, Exeter have looked after us brilliantly for excellent value. And I firmly believe it's in their interest. New people go racing, they enjoy their day out with the 69 Club, they go back on their own. And we've now actually got a waiting list of people's friends who want to join our club. The 69 Club's been fine. I say we've got a second horse. We might start a new one. I really rather fancy doing 50 shares of grey, just to keep going with the on the edge theory. So if anybody's got a grey horse they want to sell to some sucker cheap, that's me. And if you've got any other horse racing deviants who'd like to join that sort of syndicate, that's me too. So yeah, it definitely is the way ahead, and it's working very, very well, I've got to say.
Now, you wanted to get something off your chest about affordability.
Yeah, I mean, it's flavour of the month at the moment. I have had all sorts of grief with most bookmakers. I am a self-employed person. We're not a limited company, so I don't have publicly visible accounts. And when I want some money, I draw it out of the company bank and spend it. So I don't really conform in terms of what the affordability check people want. So I've had all sorts of battles sending paperwork through left, right and centre. And to be honest, I've cut right back on my gambling because I can't get a bet on. I don't like the idea of some of these spurious black market firms because my worry is there. If I have a decent win, getting the money out of them concerns me. And things reached a really new level a couple of nights ago. I went into a bookmaker's in Salisbury to have a bet. I'll tell you, 150 quid each way, not mega, on a horse. I'm quite used to the lad behind the counter having to ring that through for authority, but this time he said, I need to have some details about you. I said, okay, fine. So he said, what's your name? I said, Fred Smith, and which he was quite happy with. Where do you live, Fred? I said, I live in Salisbury. So he's got me down as Fred Smith from Salisbury. I said, what's all that about then when he put the phone? I said, well, he says, it's this affordability stuff. But he says it's also so we can gauge who are successful punters and who aren't. So therefore, and I'm unaware that bookmakers have this little scheme and they have to ring through, is it a red customer, an amber customer or a blue customer? Which basically is it someone you know, is it a winner or is it a compulsive loser? Which has a bearing on whether head office agreed to take the bet. So this now is a new tack that the bookmakers absolutely know, yes, we can hide behind affordability, completely irrelevant when they were quite happy for me to give a false name and show no ID, but now they have got me on the radar, so that if my 150 quid each way bet had won, sadly it didn't, so I wish they had turned me down, they then got me on the radar, and I'm convinced that the bookmakers are using this affordability checks to actually regulate winning punters a little bit more. We all know years ago, as soon as you win something, you'll get closed down. This gives them another tool to do that. And I'm more than happy to explore and divulge which bookmaker was involved and where it was, maybe at another time. But the affordability checks is ridiculous. What it is doing is taking people away from betting conventionally, which takes money out of the racing industry. If ultimately I cannot have a bet, I won't own horses. It's an integral part of owning my horses to back them. And it will be the ruination of the racing game unless people get together and deal with it properly. And I really, really feel strongly about that. It is a major part of ownership as far as I am concerned. And the more difficult it is to have a bet, the less likely it is for me to get more involved in racing. And I know an awful lot of people feel the same. And we really need to stop all this messing about and all sorts of silly things and get the relevant stakeholders involved and sit down and deal with it. If I want to spend all day on an online casino, I can do that unregulated. If I want to go out and buy flash cars with no consideration by finances, I can do that all day long. Yes, problem gambling is an issue. And there's one simple way, to my mind, to actually look at people in the first place is do a credit check on them. If I want to buy a mobile phone, if I want to, buy a holiday on credit or buy a car or even get a store card, someone will do a credit check on me. If the bookmakers did that or were allowed to do that, that would spot the problem signs. If customer X is behind with his mortgage, increased his borrowings, etc., and is betting heavily, that would be the sign that this chap maybe have a problem. Then we need to investigate further. If the credit check reveals that the man is living perfectly within his means, that would be a reason to ease off the pressure. Maybe consult the man occasionally. Are you okay? You sure you're happy? Which is fine, but not all the intrusive bank statements, accounts, and Lord knows what, because it really is a major issue. That's me serious rant over.
And I've seen you careering up and down the betting ring at Newton now, but the first time I saw you actually was aware of you. So who's that chap having it on? So at least I know you can get it on somewhere. On course, go racing, everyone. So finally, the 69 Club. You've mentioned they might have the 50 Shades of Grey.
50 shares of grey.
50 shares of grey, sorry. So anybody wants to contact you to get
Anyone's
involved?
talk to me about, Simon Prout. I use my business email, which is hq@wedovans.com. You might want a van too, but they're in pretty short supply. Horses are easier. Give me a call. More than interested in talking to you about it. And come and join the party. Guaranteed fun days out.
And I think we can vouch for that. And it's the first time I've ever had a bit of crockery broken on an interview. So, Simon Prout, thank you very much.
I was rather worried about more litigation, thought I'd better destroy the evidence to show I've taken their warning seriously.